Okay, this will be a live breaking news update. Oh, there's so many titles I could give. The Parade of Clowns. The main thing a couple of things I'm going to update. It is highly possible. I had a lot of views on the video, I don't know how many from the last one I made. The one that said, because there's other, not just YouTube, all right? I could see how many views I get on these other websites. One of them that got a lot of views. The three that are the top videos of all time. One was the castration video. But the other one was in defense of the boy Lister. I have his picture there, who's a black man who was shot and killed in Corpus Christi by CCPD. And that one got a lot of views. Let's talk about and the one on the those who are contributing to the GoFundMe account, the Peter Strozk, Andrew McCabe, and this Parade of Clowns. It's possible that your financial contributions to those men, particularly some of them who are under criminal investigation for lying to the FBI, meaning they worked for the FBI and they lied to the FBI, and the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, has documented those crimes. Now, when Peter Strozk and the GoFundMe crowd, I saw one the other day, it said begging to make us billionaires or millionaires, after I made the original one. Through a FOIA request, Freedom of Information request, you can get the names of the people that had contributed financially to these men, knowing openly that they had been accused of criminal activity by their own FBI. And those men are asking for money to thwart justice. Do you understand? You say, but in our society, contributing to a defense account wouldn't be considered that. You would have just as much justification as what Mr. Mueller did in the, quote, campaign finance violations. Okay? So it is possible. You say, well, we'll withdraw our money from, your name's already on there. So it's possible. You say, well, I'm going to contribute to these beggars. All of these FBI guys and all of these Parade of Clowns. Well, contribute. And then it's possible, if legal action is taken, that every record of your past and of your children's financial dealings and every single thing can be gone through with a fine-tooth comb. And maybe some of your kids will go to prison. Maybe they'll get targeted like Mr. Trump's son. Now, there's a voice out of South Texas that claims to be a voice of righteousness, a leader of the Democratic Party, and he's hammering all of these actions that we've been discussing as these are righteous noble. His name is Joaquin Castro out of San Antonio. Now, why should we label that the Parade of Clowns? Do you know what he's considered? When I was in Mathis, Texas, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I was staying at my daughter's house, South Texas, rural areas. I would catch CNN and Fox News at one of the local convenience stores because my daughter didn't have the internet at the TV, and I would stay at the ranch. And I thought, I can go down there and pick up, whatever, food, newspapers, and just sit there and catch it there. And there was some guy that came in. Now, he's a white man. I don't know his name. And he saw they had Fox News on. And I forgot what scandal was being covered at that time. And this white man from South Texas, that's Fox News. And I said, well, I'm just catching whatever news I can catch. And then he said, this was time of one of the campaigns. He said, I want Hillary to win. I said, well, I deal with politics on my websites, and this is before we decided who was the president. And then he said, because I'm tired of white men running the show, okay? And he said, and I'm a white man. I felt like saying, brother, I could kind of see that. But that was the mindset, okay? we're noble, we're just, because we hate our own race. But then he said, and because I said I talk on politics, then he said, are you familiar with the Castro brothers? Okay, we're going to get to them. I said, at first I forgot if it's called Fidel Castro, Batista, and, well, I said, oh yeah, yes. He said, they are such noble, righteous, these are now Democrats. They should rise to Hispanic. And you know what Joaquin Castro did that should forever cause him to be out of politics? Besides the fact that this whole crowd is saying he's a rising star. They had a parade in San Antonio. Joaquin Castro has a twin brother. Let's forget this. And Joaquin Castro himself couldn't make it to the parade. He had his twin brother pretend to be him. Did the parade. All the people were lauding him. Oh, Joaquin Castro, so righteous, so just, and so noble. And it was his fake brother standing in for him. Now, Mr. Castro said, that was me. The brother, and then finally the story broke. He had his brother lie to the Hispanics, to the Anglos, to the blacks, by pretending. That was such a stunt. And how did the media cover it? Sort of like nothing. That's a parade of clowns. And you purport to be a voice of righteousness? Now, the big thing I wanted you to see, besides the fact that everyone that has contributed to these GoFundMe accounts might indeed be investigated in your families. If we can get the FOIA requests through, every single name of everybody that contributed, because you are possibly contributing to the obstruction of justice in a criminal case. It can be deemed that way depending on what jurist hears that case. It's possible. The thing I wanted you to see mostly about the present situation of Mueller. Why did Mr. Mueller have Michael Cohen plead in the 8 things he pled guilty to campaign finance violations, which there was not one? That opened up the door to throw much of the cases that Mueller is looking at in the Trump family into the New York district, meaning the prosecutors, and which has got some history out of New York itself. And you have the Trump organization, Trump Tower right there, that throws it into that district where they can run. So what Mueller did was had Cohen plead to a crime that was not a crime, which I explained on the previous video, so it could throw the media and a lot of these talking heads and the parade of clowns. What they have been saying is openly, Donald Trump is a co-conspirator. Meaning, if we get Cohen to admit to a crime that there is no crime, why would he admit to it? Because they had other real stuff on Cohen, like the Manafort. But let's get him to admit to a crime that is no crime. It never goes before a judge because the judge that's not a crime. But in a plea deal, you could lie to the American people. That's what Mueller did. And then it throws it into the court, into the prosecutors and the DAs out of New York. And then they pin Trump as a co-conspirator to that crime. Do you understand? That's what he did. Shifty. What is the history of those men? One of those top justice people. Now, this is not to besmirch Jewish people. It just so happens that people like Eliot Spitzer, other men that were top people out of this New York group, prosecutors and DAs and all, attorney generals, all these guys, they have tragically been caught up in all types of sex scandals. One of them, and then they would resign and face possible charges. One of the men that Mr. Trump knew, now I'm forgetting his name, these are the New York guys that Mr. Mueller passes this off to get Trump's family and the organization and all that, going after Ivanka next. One of them was accused right now. He resigned in the last 6 months. Now, these are righteous men, supposedly. The Joaquin Castros of the world. The clowns and fakers. One of them is accused by a black woman that this New York prosecutor who was going after Trump, he bound her, he forced her, a black woman, to call him, a Jewish man, master. And as he beat her until she called him master, he then had forcible anal sex with the woman. That's the accusation of one of the top leading Democrats out of New York City. When that accusation hit, he resigned. Did he deny the accusation? No. What he said was, well, I did role playing. Meaning he admitted to one of the most heinous crimes that you could ever admit to, which would be not only considered a hate crime because of the racial implications, but possible rape, binding the woman. He basically admitted to it. Where is that man today? He is free. And the group of people, this is the whole New York prosecutor scene, the group of righteous warriors, he's part of that group. Now, did Trump know that these guys were doing these things? See, Trump's out of New York. And when Trump was having affairs with adult women, not forcing black women to call him master, he knew, the inner circle knew, because Trump tweeted years before, wait till you find out about so-and-so. Now that's the group. That man should be held without bond. And he's running free, still colluding with all of his friends. Now these are the people that the Mueller team is passing this off to, that group of people. And this is what the media is telling you on the Joaquin Castros of the world, that we are the righteous, noble warriors, though you are a parade of clowns. If any person pulled a stunt like Castro did, your political career is over, because it's such a scam that somebody would even think to do that. But not only is that man still good, he's one of the leading voices out of South Texas to bring down deception. What a scam and a shame. So the main thing I wanted you to see out of the previous video was Mueller knew what he was doing and it was deceptive. And he had Mr. Cohen plead to a non-crime so they can now refer to Mr. Trump and his family, Ivanka and all the kids. You are now co-conspirators in a stupid little non-campaign thing. That's what he did, so it could spread. There are enough tweets by people like Mr. John Brennan, who said openly, you will go down, Mr. Trump, in the dustbin of history. You had Samantha Power, the former UN person under Obama. I used to walk back to UN. Say, don't mess with Brennan. We're going to get you, Trump. Words to that effect. And Mr. Strozk and others, these texts came out. We will take him down. If he becomes elected, we'll put in place Andy's plan. There's enough stuff that has come out that you could say these people are running a soft coup. And some of the things that they've done are treasonous. And anybody connected to these people, even through GoFundMe accounts, can be held liable, in my understanding. And we can go through your finances because you are possibly contributing to the obstruction of justice. And then, how does our local media play the Joaquin Castros of the world? Or the Jewish, happen to be Jewish, prosecutor who forcibly did that to a black woman? Our media plays these people as noble, righteous people, because that's the same cabal that Mr. Mueller just handed over particular cases to that group out of New York. And it is such a shame that we're doing this in this country. So the parade of clowns is simply the entire sham that's going on right now in this country. That's the parade of clowns. if you looked right, like the white man I saw at the Stripes in Mathis, it wasn't a matter of looking at whether people on your side of the aisle are noble, are doing right. It was a matter of, we want our side to win. And if the leaders of our side have raped and sodomized black women while they forced them to call them master, which seems to have been what's happened. And these are the top justice officials out of New York. And then you had the case of Elliot Spitzer and others. So these top justice people that Mueller, with his record, is passing these things off to, are now saying, we might get Trump's son on a severe crime. What is that crime that you're going to get him on? He lied to us. We in this country deem lying to us, some of us who sodomized black women, the justice of the country, have them call us master as we bound them. All of those things, you know, we can run free. We can still walk the streets of New York, collude with our buddies. But if you lie to us, because we're the FBI, or we're the CIA, or we're Mr. Mueller, we deem that such a crime. Do you think you're God? Thou shalt not bear false witness. You had borne false witness in a lot of this. Mr. Castro, Joaquin, I speak to you out of San Antonio, as your brother paraded for you in a parade, and you and your brother swore that was really you. So you lied to God, you lied to man, and you're one of the leading, noble, righteous voices out of Texas, the rising star. You should repent. But you know, these people are not accountable. These people are not accountable. So remember that. The parade of clowns is going around telling you that they are not clowns. And some of the actual things that they have put out, Mr. Schumer out of New York again, he said publicly on media that if Mr. Trump tries to expose, if you will, the deep state, the FBI, Mr. Schumer said they have 6 ways from Sunday to get you. Meaning, they'll do what they have to do to get you. Now, and he said that. And if you ask Mr. Schumer today, a very unrighteous man, because at one time in the past, he referred to all the illegal aliens. He said, these are not undocumented workers. And if anybody ever tells you they are undocumented workers, they are illegal. That's the words of Schumer. And then a few years later, he's on national TV with one of those illegal aliens, crying, and saying, these are not illegals, these are undocumented. If you could just live your life without having such a forked tongue, and for whatever reason, this party that sees themselves, I'm not a Republican, but this party that sees themselves as righteous, noble warriors, and maybe it would be befitting for Mr. Castro to rise the ranks, because you are a party that wears masks. Okay? The parade of the clowns today.